Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and the focus of our conversation today is on improving Nigeria's competitiveness and the role of the National Competitiveness Council of Nigeria, what they're up against and what they should be doing and who they should be talking to. And I have a senior research fellow from the Lagos Business School, Bongo Adi, and that's what we've been talking about, and that's what's going to continue to drive the conversation from here on. Thank you so much, Bongo, for sticking around.
Thank you.
Now, we know that some sectors, including agriculture and manufacturing, can be huge foreign exchange earners for Nigeria, especially since the federal government, as much as possible, is trying to diversify away from oil. Now, for the council to promote these sectors and the other ones that, of course, have so much relevance in growing the economy, what kind of practical policies are needed? Should these policies be specific or general? Remember, I already asked you that. Yes. But now let's focus on these two sectors, agriculture and manufacturing, which the federal government has really turned its attention to in recent days.
Well, for a policy to be effective, it has to be specific, so sector specific. So we understand the problems of manufacturing, and then we provide policies based on an understanding of the problems specific to the manufacturing sector. The same applies to agric. Okay, in the recent time, the government has made tremendous efforts in improving the features or the fortunes of the agricultural sector, and that is very commendable under the transformation agenda of the president. Okay, but there are still a whole lot of gaps. Now, I'll give you some example. Just last month, I was in Italy, okay, and I paid visit. It was actually a summer school on regulation of local public utilities. And I had the opportunity to visit several waste-to-energy plants. I mean, because of the environmental policies in Europe, they are switching away from fossil fuel to renewable energy sources. Okay, they are converting biodegradable waste, household waste, into energy. It's unbelievable. Okay, any sort of waste, refuse, they take it into the plant, it's processed, and it's converted into electricity. And there are a whole lot of byproducts, including gas, methane, and so on and so forth. And even the residue is a compost that is used by farmers. So there is no aspect of the chain in that plant that is waste as such. So you can see where the world is going. Now we're talking about agriculture. There is a huge demand for Nigerian biomass. By biomass, I mean something like palm kernel shell, which is seen as a waste product here in Nigeria. But that is a huge foreign exchange earner, and it is in heavy demand all over the world.
Palm kernel shells.
Palm kernel shell. Palm kernel shell is in heavy demand all over the world. It's used in power plants. It's used in smelting. It's used in drilling. So these are opportunities that we have, low-hanging fruits that we need to tap into. But we don't even have a biomass policy in Nigeria. Malaysia has something like that. Brazil has a biomass policy. We don't have a biomass policy. Okay? And talking about manufacturing, there's a huge amount of manufacturing opportunity in the agricultural sector. Okay? Processing of agricultural products, even the palm kernel shell I'm talking about, these things can be converted into what they call briquettes, and again, which has a very high export potential in huge demand all over the world. I mean, it's not about competitiveness. They are just looking for who is going to deliver these things. It's not about infrastructure. If you are able to send tons, thousands of tons of palm kernel shell to Europe, there is market, there are contracts all over the place, the internet, where you can get them.
But can't we use that for ourselves as well? Because if we're exporting it, that means it has some sort of value. So
yeah,
how can we
it's a renewable energy. It's a renewable energy, but we don't have the technology yet. Okay, but again, these are all, like I said, low-hanging fruit, because the technology is not that sophisticated and not so expensive. So this is something I think the government, especially the Ministry of Agriculture, should start to think about and look into, how to empower local entrepreneurs to assess these opportunities and take advantage to improve our manufacturing. There are a whole lot of capacity in manufacturing, a whole lot of untapped resources in this country. There has been an over-concentration of oil. Now you mentioned that the government is looking towards diversifying away from oil or crude oil-based economy. I think there is so much opportunity that will create massive employment. That was why I said something about institutional entrepreneurs. There are some people who are out there in what we call the informal sector. The Chinese are all over the place. And the Swiss companies, some Italian, some German companies have set up shops in Nigeria where they aggregate the palm kernel shell and they are now exporting it. Okay, making all the money and nothing comes to us. So are we going to keep on remaining drawers of water and hewers of wood in this age? There is need for support by the government. We're talking about improving competitiveness. These are all low-hanging fruits. Again, when I say there is need for engagement with academia, I'm not mixing words there. It is important to engage with the people who do conduct the research, who understand what is happening, what can drive competitiveness.
Apart from that, we also know that ICT is very key to all of this. And
we have played, again, the World Economic Forum ranked us very low.
Very low,
in ICT.
Well, the Minister of Information and Communications Technology is working to improve the industry. But how can the council use ICT to...
They can't do much. Sorry that I'm cutting you short.
Okay,
because,
but let me just finish so you get to understand what I'm saying.
Right.
We know that work is ongoing to improve this industry. What I want you to comment on is how the council can use the ICT to effectively raise awareness about the importance of enhancing Nigeria's competitiveness.
Now, we're talking about information and communication technology and the deployment of information and communications technology. The telephone is there. People are using their phones. I can say that mobile telephone penetration in Nigeria is low, about 89%. That is not low at all. Okay, very soon it will be 100%. So everybody uses a mobile phone. That's information technology, right? But that's not the solution to the problem. We are talking about computing. We are talking about the use of computerized systems. Now, this is something that builds upon basic literacy. We are talking about educational institutions. People pass through schools, they haven't seen a computer. When you graduate, then you go for computer literacy class. That is an oxymoron. What have you been doing in school all the years? You have no access to computer. When you graduate from the college, then you go to school to do computer appreciation, as they call it.
No, but you don't necessarily need to have a computer. You have your phones, like you already said, and most mobile phones these days are smartphones. Yes. And so a lot of work actually goes...
Can still be done there.
Yes, because you see that a lot of news is actually disseminated on the social media, people using their smartphones, and sometimes a lot of negative news is also spread as well. So how can the council actually use that to their own advantage instead of disadvantage?
We do not control the architecture of the information and communication technology platforms that we are talking about. Unless you understand how to program, do basic programming, for instance, you can't even program your phone. But this is basic science. If you go online, there is code.org where it teaches basic programming is for everybody. Okay, that is what I think the application of ICT in the advanced world, what they mean by the penetration of ICT, use of ICT. It is not being done because where you implement such policies is in the academia. It starts from the universities. I keep on talking about the universities. That is the basic of economic development. Everything you talk about we're talking about a knowledge economy, right? And that is it. That is the basis of competitiveness. Knowledge economy is on the basis of knowledge, on the basis of innovation, on the basis of R&D. And that is the area where we have fallen flat on our stomach. Except we kick ourselves up, nothing is going to happen.
You know that they're going to be actually working with a lot of agencies. Now, in the eventuality that they come up against an investor who is trying to make the investment environment difficult, should they have enforcement powers, for instance, over institutions or individuals?
You mean the NCC?
Yes, the NCCN.
No, I don't think that is within their area of jurisdiction at all. Theirs is to produce research, produce policy based on research they've conducted, advisory role. That's what they do. But I don't think they have any executive powers. Okay,
so now, looking in terms of collaborations, what kind should Nigeria be making at this particular point in time? Should be thinking of making, that's the NCCN.
NCC. engagement with not just industry, because we see that it is a private sector-led initiative. And again, whenever we talk about private sector, we are talking about Lagos and Abuja. I mean, mainly Lagos. The Nigeria Economic Summit has always been in Lagos. I don't think they have a branch in Owerri, for instance, or Enugu or somewhere else. Okay, they don't have a branch in Yola, for instance. Okay, so whenever we talk about competitiveness, we are actually talking about Lagos. Lagos is not the only city in Nigeria. There are some other cities, and that's part of the thing we are doing at Lagos Business School, to look at, because we are decomposing the competitiveness into regions. We are producing what we call regional competitiveness, infrastructure competitiveness, where we break it down according to regions, disaggregated competitiveness of different regions of Nigeria, by states, by cities. And again, we are talking about the world economy that is led by cities. According to McKinsey report, the top cities that would drive a whole lot of the global GDP growth in the next 15 years, 20 years, will be in the developing world. We are talking about cities, city growth. That is another thing for the NCC to be looking at. Okay. Competitiveness, not of Nigeria as an entity. Again, when we break down the competitiveness, you will notice that the competitiveness of Lagos may rank higher than that of maybe a country like Rwanda. It is possible. It's very possible. Okay, so we need to disaggregate and then understand what it is that is holding other cities back. Okay, there is something, and it has happened in so many other parts of the world. There could be controlled development where government shapes us policies in such a way to allow or to enable cities to grow. Okay, so that is a conscious and deliberate effort that the government can be pushing for. I think these are some of the things that the NCC should be doing. But in order to achieve this, there is need for engagement. Engagement with people who are in the know, who are active in research. It's not because I'm at Lagos Business School, and I think a whole lot of research is going on there. They've actually they have actually advanced this issue of competitiveness. The Center for Competitiveness and Strategy is working with Lagos State Government, with grant for the Lagos State Government to develop competitiveness indicators for Lagos. We at CIPRA also are working to develop competitiveness in infrastructure. Competitiveness, what we call Nigeria Infrastructure Diagnostics, and we have engaged with consultants overseas in the UK, to develop a real-time map of infrastructure.
And so, if the NCCN actually begins to work with the academia, it makes their job a little more clear-cut, so that it doesn't seem as if they're walking, on different roads. They have a clear-cut vision, and they know that if they work with these people, they'll be getting the statistics that are needed. So, going forward, what should the council be thinking of addressing first?
Engagement, because much of what they are supposed to do is already ongoing at different levels. So how do we harmonize the activities going on in different areas? That should be primemost in their mind.
Well, thank you so much, Bongo, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on the program.
Thank you.
Do you have an interesting trading day, like I say?
Thanks a lot.
Well, I've been speaking with a senior research fellow from the Lagos Business School, Bongo Ade, and we've been looking at improving Nigeria's competitiveness and the role of the National Competitiveness Council of Nigeria. They have a very big job ahead of them, and we're hoping that whatever it is that does happen, they will carry the academia along and other key players of the industry as need be. Well, that's the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be kind to everyone. I'm Harriet Agbini.